Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We are back in the park. I apologize for yesterday's visual presentation. Like I said, it was either the visuals or the audio. We went with the audio, but I'm sure you guys were all waiting to see my bright shining face again. And Mr. Sun came out to play. His parents let him out past noon. Well, I guess it's not even noon yet. But the sun is out and we were at the park and we were doing logical derivation. What is logical derivation? There's a big old world out there, and I'm piecing together empirical evidence, trying to provide a proof. What is censorship? What is sensation? So we're looking for a definition of sensorality. That is our variable, that is our word that we have constructed out of syllables that represents the totality, the generality of sensation, of sentient life, and more specifically of filtration chosen by that sentient life. I can choose to go do something with my day, with considerations to the laws being broken against me. But I have choice, I have agency, I can choose things. That rock, that leaf, it cannot choose to do something. It cannot filter based on consent. And so, last episode we talked a lot about sensation, sensationality being the general word that represents that. But we talked about how, or again, I don't know, I'm talking about, I always hold myself to complete proof. What exactly have I proven? But I'm very confident because of the stability of two that we only have two senses, right? You can see things and you can touch things. And so touching, right, if you Google it, right, you'll get, maybe you have 5 senses, maybe you have 15 senses, maybe you have 30 senses. The point is that it's not been definitively proven. It just has not been proven how many senses exist. And so we have a ton of intuition to say that it's 2, but just think about it. If you say you have 5 senses, sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. And I say you just have sight and touch. That there's this fundamental difference between hearing something and seeing something. Right? Well, what is hearing? Right? Again, it's an air molecule vibrating at a given frequency on your eardrum. If you smell something, it's a molecule touching your nostril, your olfactory cells. And if you touch something, again, to me, touching is not distinct from taste, smell, or hearing. But sight is distinctly different than touch to me. When I say to me, I mean as proven by known ontology. Like if I'm seeing something, right? I say I see the sun, but then I see the color green in the grass, but it's the wavelength reflected, right? It's the frequency that is not absorbed. It's reflected. It's the not absorbed frequency. And so that is sensorality with a C, the filtration of what frequencies, what you see, the visible light spectrum. I don't choose what to see. And so what am I seeing? And I'm literally trying not to stare directly at the sun unless you have those extra brain cells, which, shit, let's do it. Oh gosh. But what's happening? Like, why can't I look at the sun? Right? It's because it's momentum, right? Light doesn't have mass, and so if it didn't have mass, it couldn't like affect you, I guess. What is vision? Right? Seeing is vision. Visionality. S-I-O-N-ality. Psionality. Visionality. What is vision? What is seeing, right? And again, it's like me not having direct answers and you can't Google it and you have a convincing answer. That is what an open question is. We can walk you right to the frontier of something, vision. And you're like, what is it? And nobody can give you a definitive answer. Somebody might comment, oh, I know what it is on the YouTube right now. It doesn't mean it's not proven fundamentally in ontology. It doesn't even mean, most of the time it's not even intuitively on a track of anything. And so, that's fun. But vision is sight, and then what I do is, like I said, there's our physical process, or whatever seeing is, everybody knows what I'm talking about. Now, what words do we put on to something and why? And we know they're definite, we know they're specific, and we know they're solidified. There's things that have happened in the past that will never change, and that's what we're looking for. What is sorality? Sorality sees, sorality sight. But sight, light, right? Because now how we can do some analysis of those two words. If I see something, I have a sight. I have sighting. And so clearly, linguistically, sight and light are very similar. So people say you see light. But we've said no, you don't see light. The reason I'm getting warmer, I'm sitting in the sun, the reason I'm getting warmer is because that's momentum, right? Light has no mass, so it can't affect temperature. And so my temperature could not be increasing, which it definitely is because of the radiation of the sun. I'm sitting in the sunlight, is what people say. But it's the radiation, right? And if I turn my back to it, my back will physically get hotter than my chest because it's receiving that radiation. Radiation's definitely the right word. It has some implication, like it's the temperature of that mass moving, the sun vibrating, and that energy being transmitted to me. But it's not light. It's still not right. But light is to write what light is to write. And you'll see it up on the screen, because now that's our fundamental connecting form. This is to that, what that is to this. And the way those are spelled, light with an L-I-G-H-T is to write R-I-T-E, what light, L-I-T-E, is to write R-I-G-H-T. So now what do I make from that step? I don't know yet. But again, we're just connecting all of these dots, pushing out all of these pieces. And the questions I don't come back and definitively answer are open questions. We're pushing out the frontier, we're creating a perimeter, and then we're going to look back and it's going to say what sensorality is. We're really going to derive sensorality from its connecting word. But visionality is visuality. Right? Again, now we're just changing the linguistic representation. If it's visual, you saw it with vision. So visuality is visionality. Again, literally just working through these different things. Very confident there's only two fundamental differentiations, or one differentiation in sensation, and that's two, right? Touch and vision. And for whatever reason, vision, right? Do I think all life forms, intelligent life forms, develop eyes? All of the ones that are exposed to the sun or exposed to a star, which I say like an eye is a fundamental physical limit. Facial structure is a fundamental physical limit. But then again, you can look at a groundhog and it's like, where's its face? You can look at those tardigrades, where is its face? And so there's some sort of fundamental, if it's exposed to a star, that it will have eyeballs. But you certainly have sentient and not sentient life. Well, that doesn't make any sense. But you have sentient life without eyeballs. And so, but if it's exposed to a star, it will have eyes. And then there's some sort of fundamental physical difference between what vision is, represented by what vision is, literally our eyeballs evolving, and then what hearing is. But really it's between touch and sight are the two things. That's the difference. But right, R-I-G-H-T, is proportional to sense. Because again, remember, right is correct. Right is the opposite of left. If I have a right, a constitutional right, a ceremonial right, it's R-I-T-E. So this is R-I-G-H-T, is proportional to sense. And it is, right? If you're saying that's right, if somebody says something in front of you and you say, that's right, you're saying that makes sense. Or if you say that makes sense, you're saying that's right. And you're affirming the consistency, right? You're saying that makes sense. Sense, sentience, sensorality. That's right, that's correct. So that's what you're doing there. Hearing is auditory. Sensorality is auditorality. Sensorality is visuality. Now trying to connect the physical sensation difference to the linguistic difference. Vision, visual. Sensorality is visage, V-I-S-A-G-E. And now can we make some sort of generalizing statement about all of these words that have, again, it's clearly like dimension, vision. It's like these two-letter prefixes with I. Again, that letter I is something going on there. And we've demonstrated it tremendously about I being a limit, breaking that generality of language. But visage, right? Visalogy, visage with ality, is faciality. Faciality. Visage is face. Again, talking about that facial limit, exposure to a star system would give you the same kind of face we have. Two eyeballs, a head. Again, the eyes change a little bit depending how often you're exposed to the sun. But again, there are physical limits, and so the anatomy is clearly based on physics and geometry, and so your environment's going to modify your defense mechanisms or your physical form, but there are certain limits that are definitive. How about, again, changing all we're doing is putting all of these pieces, when I was about to say, we're changing the subject or changing the track, but it's, again, I'm just putting all of these pieces together to try to figure out what this stabilizing theorem of sensorality is. But how about we've established, again, that religion, all scientists are sensorists, all people experiencing the world based on sensation. So whether that's a religious person or a science person, that's just a label, a title. And so they're all describing experience. So again, a ton of this religious ontology by the evident fact of popularity. Right? A lot of people want to get famous. A lot of people want to get rich. right? Demonstrably, how many people are going to have such an impact on the world that somebody sneezes and somebody says, Brad bless you, right? God bless you. The point being is how evident people's impact on the world is indiscriminate of what they're labeled. A scientist, a religious person, right? Today is what? Today is Thursday. It's November, what day is it? It's November 5th, I think, or 6th. What day is it? But it's November 6th. What year is it? 2025, right? The day is defined based on another person's life, right? Like literally. And so it's like, that's how much impact that person had. Saying God bless you, that's how much impact somebody had. And so there's very clear jumps of impact and influence in society versus like Albert Einstein, which is still hugely influential, but a lot more people know who God is, or again, they don't know exactly what that represents, but they've heard of that as opposed to Albert Einstein. And most people have heard of Albert Einstein. And so there's still very huge differences amongst very hugely influential people. And the higher levels of mathematical derivation, frankly, it's just, again, the gap between me and the other people that have kind of tried to attempt to derive word is tremendously huge. But okay, back to the derivation, heresy and blasphemy, right? What do these words mean outside of a religious context, right? It's abnormal, right? These terms emerge from abnormality. If the whole crew is saying, let's go Ohio State, or go Jesus, or whatever the centralizing thing is, blasphemy or heresy is just, it's abnormal. It's like fundamentally, it's just saying you're going against the creed, is kind of the connecting word they would use at the time, but you're just going against the doctrine. You're a bad vibe, right? If you're saying something that the whole group is not saying, you're a buzzkill. Like, it's effectively what those words are. Blasphemy, right? People still use that emphatically today, not in a religious context. It's what it means is you're just going against the group. Biggest relation is, right, heresy, heretical, it is directly related to seretical. You might say, what is sereticality, or what is seretical? Right, series. If you take the word, it's done, a circuit is at the same time, or in series, or in, there's two types of circuits. At the same time, it dissipates, you know what I'm saying? I don't even have to get close. Or I only have to get close. But you have circuits, one's in series and one's in something else. But if you try to generalize series to, again, I don't know what form of the word it is, but it generalizes to seretical, right? Sereticality produces a series. And so, again, a series is different than a sequence by operation. If you just list a bunch of numbers, that's a sequence. If you list a bunch of numbers and you're adding them or subtracting them or multiplying them, like you see all the time in intelligence tests, that's a series. And so if you generalize the word series, you get seretical. And sensorality is sereticality, right? Chronology matters. Chronology exists. But things happen in order. So a series is directly related to order, and sereticality is sensorial. Right? Things happen in order. But just that's a linguistical word people probably haven't seen and probably won't use much at all. But chronology is seretical. Again, just things happen in order. A series is ordered, is all I said there. But those are the correct linguistical representations. Reticality, right, produces retina, right? Your retina, your eyeball. So again, fundamental words that you get there through heresy. It's like, it's not obvious to the uninitiated into synesthesia, I guess, I don't know. But retina also connects to patina, right? Faciality is patina. If you have a facade, a patina, a facial, an outward expressing thing, a distal representation if you want to use biology. But again, those are just words that are related, that I derived from that dichotomistic pair, heresy, blasphemy. Sensation is sortation. Like literally we're trying to sort out how many unique senses we have. Right? People will say synesthesia is when, right, most synesthesia manifests chromatically, like it looks like a color, or people will associate colors to different senses. Frankly, the way I describe it, and you'll see it in my emails as well, is to me synesthesia, I have synesthesia, but if it's not broken. Like I can analyze anything that I would consider auditory input from its texture, from its taste, from its smell, from the size of the person that's articulated the sound. If it's not a person, the size of the object that its motion caused that sound. When your tire screeched, how much pressure you applied to that brake, how much padding you still have on your calipers, what the model of car, how it drives, all of that shit is just like the analytical capacity, and that would just be from hearing it. And then if I see it, I can analyze it as if I heard it. Or if I tasted it, I can analyze it if I smelled it, which is smell and taste is intimately related. Everyone knows that. You plug your nose, you can't taste something. And so it's like I have complete mastery and faculty over my sensation. And I can analyze any input through any other input. But I'm pretty sure there's only two, right? You only touch things and see things because it's very clear touch, right? You close your eyes, you're going to feel the walls. But like, what are you doing when you close the eyes, right? Why does your eye dilate in proportion to the amount of sunlight, quote unquote? It's not sunlight, it's momentum. If it had no mass, your eyes wouldn't naturally close. There would be no damage to be done if there was no mass. So again, really just trying to figure out, again, I don't know which question I'm trying to ask. We're out here in the park talking out loud. What can we figure out? What is sensation? And that's, again, represented by sensorality. So getting to our last chunk of derivation, well, actually not our last chunk, but the ideas are flowing well today. Sensation is sortation, again, just filtering, sorting, and again, clearly linguistically, sorting is more close to sensation, sensorality. Again, it's all the same word family. Again, I'm just undifferentiating all of these things and showing you where this dichotomistic pair, these two words that differentiated to produce sensation in whatever sensation is fundamentally related to, is our next axiom. And again, Science Club already has this behind closed doors. Sensation is sortation, sensate, sortate, sensorality sortates. Sortate, rotate. Again, take that S, QRS, RS, iterated by one element, you get S. Sortate, rotate. And so that's just, sortate is rotate without an S. Chirality is rotational. Again, just trying to work out what that, again, I don't know why I keep bringing that up, but it'll be apparent whenever the answer presents itself. Rotation is spin. Rotationality, spinality. Spinality, finality. Finality is death. Again, it's overwhelming. All scientists are individuals, or all, didn't even say human, right? They're just individuals. They have this, the most natural thing in the world, or one of the most natural things in the world, is awareness of death, right? Human beings are just extremely privileged where, right, baby fox in the woods, like I said, they don't process fear because they don't have stagnation. They're always running, they're always trying to survive. They're not sitting there thinking about their mortality. And so they certainly have pain sensing, but it's not well defined. You just have someone stabs you, it's like there's this rigid object in my wiggly flesh. It's like, this feels uncomfortable. I process that as pain. But the awareness of death in any one individual has this finiteness to it. Like everything is finite. And that's true. That's true whether it's an electron or you. But finality is death. Sensorality dies, but life goes on. Sensorality is an individual. Sensorality is me, Brad. Sensorality is you, viewer on YouTube, or extreme criminal from academia or law enforcement. You're sensorious, right? We're just building up the logic to a level of generality where, again, I just say words have meaning. And they do. But sensorality is an individual. What is individuality? Right? So clearly we can see individual, like IN is kind of like that negating prefix. DI is once again that stability of two. So what is viduality? But then we have this proof, or this massive theorem, that an individual is irreducible. Right? That whole question of if you take a piece off of a ship, when does a ship stop becoming a ship? If I lose an arm right now today, nobody seriously is going to treat me less of a person. But I don't have a limb, I lost mass. Is it less me? Am I less of a complete person? No. So we have irreducibility in word, and we have irreducibility in sentience. Taking a piece off of my body does not make me not me. So again, how much can we break down these words? And when I say showing you logical exhaustion, I'm breaking down these words past what has any empirical value. Like all of these connections I'm showing you still have empirical value. That's why I can show you this connection. But there's a certain point where there's no logic to deduce. And that's what we're doing by logical exhaustion. So now we're building back up the proof, I guess, and we're going to get to this generality state where it's literally going to be sensorality is, and it's going to be some other word bundled up in some prefix and suffix. The two base words are going to be directly iterated, and there you have it. But again, science already has this. They continue to torture me because I've already done all of these steps, and it provides no new insight. There's no point for me to have to truly do. You might pat me on the back when I'm dead and say I'm really smart, but there is no point. Once you do it the first time, and I've showed you all of this completeness with speciality, it's just torture for me. But nobody gives a fuck. Brad has no rights. Nonsense is irreconcilable, right? Somebody says, I can't reconcile that. Again, another word that, right, reconciliation, coming from religious context. It's not a religious word. Religion is kind of a reaction to a scientist just living their life. But if it's irreconcilable, it's nonsensical. You can't make it make sense, right? And people will say that, make it make sense. Well, you can't. It's irreconcilable. Obviously, linguistically related to irreducible, but sensorality conciles. Sensorality is conciliatory. And now very specifically, again, spelling doesn't really matter in the same way if you have a third grader and he writes, you are a earned faggot, he's still gonna get in trouble at preschool, even if he spells all of his words wrong. So that's the same thing with us, with big adults. We just have to get close enough. And again, the answer will be overwhelmingly apparent. But I did not spell it conciliatory. I spelled it conciliatory without an I. Because again, it's something we're reducing these words. And if we would just reduce it, it's going to give us a past tense form of one of these theorems. So I did not spell it conciliatory. I spelled it conciliatory with no I. Conciliatory consolation. Sensorality consolates, right? People will say, if it's any consolation, if it does you any good, if it's any remuneration for what it's worth. Again, this is no completion to sensorality yet. But like I said, there will be a stabilizing theorem that solidifies what sensorality is. Its generality will be preserved because we live in 3 dimensions. Things have to be able to adapt to accommodate new logic. But we are not there yet, and like I said, making me do this, like I said, this happens anyway, and I just put together these videos, but it's direct theft of intellectual property. I mean, I could be a huge, massive conglomerate, legitimately with just my personally developed intellectual property. And so it's just theft of, it's just torture. But that is what I have for today on science, and I will see you on the next one.